Head-to-heads this week, guys, and we are going with the most requested head-to-head we have had so far. Eddie Hall versus Thor Bjornsson.
So for those that are new to this series, we've done several before, which you can check out, at least one of them up here. Now, what we look at is their full competition head-to-head results. So when Thor and Eddie were in the same competition together, who came out on top? So it's looking at their track records against each other. I'm the one who's done the research and Loz is going to guess as we go along. Are you ready?
Do you have lots of information for us on these two?
Of course, I've done all the digging, Lozzie, all the dirt. So these two guys first competed against each other in the 2012 Europe's Strongest Man, which is held at Headingley Stadium in Leeds. Now, at this point, neither of them were anywhere near the standard that they would eventually go on.
Pretty sure I beat them both in this one.
You did beat them both. You placed third at that competition. Thor had done one Arnolds Strongman Classic and placed 10th, and Eddie had come 8th at Britain's Strongest Man that same year. So it's not the Eddie and Thor that we would eventually come to know. But
to be fair, 2011, Thor was in the final of World's Strongest Man.
He was, yeah. So 2012 was kind of a breakthrough year for Eddie competing at an international level, whereas Thor was kind of 2 years into that. So, and he had won Iceland's Strongest Man a couple of times, but like on one occasion it was 3 people in the whole competition. So that's kind of where they were at that point when they first met. Europe's Strongest Man 2012. So how do you think that competition went for them, Lazo?
And Thor comes out on top out of the two of them. I can't remember exactly. I think Thor may have been 4th. I think Krzysztof Raczkowski might have been 4th now, to come to think of it. Go on. I think Thor did better than Eddie. Lalas and Zdrunas were ahead of me.
Okay.
I don't look behind.
Okay, so Thor came 5th.
Okay.
And Eddie Hall was 7th.
Okay.
Do you know who got in between them? Who came 6th? 6th. I can't say that word.
Terry? No.
You'll never guess.
No.
It was Irvin Katona.
Oh, there we go, Irvin.
So then, just a few months later, at World's Strongest Man, Eddie and Thor were in the same group together. Heat 2.
And Thor comes out on top.
Yeah, so Thor wins his group and Eddie placed
3rd in his group?
4th in his group.
Okay.
In hindsight, it was a really stacked group. So Thor was 1st, Mike Jenkins was 2nd, and then in 3rd place was Nick Best. Next is the 2013 Europe's Strongest Man.
Now this is when Zdrunas was absolutely amazing, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. But that farmer's walk.
Yes. I will say Thor beats Eddie at this time again.
Yeah. So Thor placed 4th overall and Eddie was 8th. But it was still a good day for Eddie because he broke the British log lift record with a 191 kilo log lift, a record that was previously held by you. And what was your record? 190.
190.
Yeah, there you go. So still a good day for Eddie. Next then was the 2014 World's Strongest Man final. So this was Eddie's first final. Do you remember it?
Yes, I think Eddie, myself and Terry all made the final.
Yeah, you did. First time we had 3 Brits in a final, I believe.
And 2014, I think Zdrunas won.
Yeah.
I think Brian Shaw was 2nd. And I think Thor was 2nd.
Yeah.
And I think Brian Shaw was 3rd. And was Mike Burke 4th?
Yeah, I think he was, yeah.
And then Eddie 5th.
No, Eddie was joint 6th.
Eddie was joint 6th.
Terry Hollands was 5th.
Terry was 5th.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah, so he was joint 6th with Dave Ostland.
Yes, okay.
There you go. That was the year he, on the loading race in sand, he got into the tyre.
Yes, I remember.
With his little sort of legs.
That was when Mike Burke's stone platform kind of
fell over.
That was, some interesting stuff going on that year.
It was a tense year.
It was. That was the year they were supposed to have frame and yoke in the final, and they changed it to keg toss and sandbag loading on sand, and I'm very disappointed and angry at that.
Still.
You got rid of my 2 best events for 2 of my worst, and I'm still bitter at World's Strongest Man. That last minute change.
And what else?
It wouldn't have been Zdrunas on top, it would have been Uncle Loz. Instead, I think I was 7th or 8th, I don't know.
They also, that was the year that Brian Shaw did that keg toss throw and said,
Yes.
no one's beaten that. Something Brian never used to do. He would never say something like that. Thor went and beat it immediately afterwards.
And when we got to the venue, there was forensics covering up a dead body. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. And there was an earthquake.
That was a hell of a year.
It was
World's
a great
Strongest Man.
year, yeah. Next was the 2014 Europe's Strongest Man.
2014 Europe's Strongest Man would have been Thor winning this year for the first time.
That's right. Yeah.
Thor winning. I'm not even sure where Eddie placed.
So Eddie placed 7th. Now, he withdrew after the deadlift, which was the first event. He went for a world record.
Yeah.
Now, this year was when it just completely fell apart. Only 5 guys finished the competition.
Yeah, this is where I tore my lat.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, this is where I think they started to separate the deadlift from the competition after this, didn't they? Because it was taking so much out of people that were really pushing the deadlift.
Yeah, and that's when they started introducing guest lifters. Well, I think they already had. I remember Benedict Magnusson was there. Yeah, in 2013 he did it, and 2014. So, yeah, but this was the format was sort of ever evolving at this point. So Eddie pulled out after the first event, but still came 7th because his deadlift was that much better than some of the other guys. Yeah. So next is the 2014 Strongman Champions League World Final.
Oh, I don't know about this one.
It's an interesting one.
I will guess Thor.
Yes, Thor was first and Eddie was second. However, they tied on points, 67 points, but Thor won on countback. So he had 2 event wins over Eddie's 1 event win. So Strongman Champions League don't use the same
as Worlds.
No, but even if they did, it wasn't stones as the last event. It was an arm over arm, and Thor was like 4 places higher than Eddie. So if that was the route they took, but looking at the results, I'm guessing Thor won on countback.
Okay.
Next is the Arnolds Strongman Classic from 2015.
So both guys at the Arnolds 2015, obviously big major competition. I'm going to say Thor again.
No, you are wrong. Eddie placed 6th and Thor was 7th.
Okay.
Yeah. This was when Thor totally got it wrong on the max deadlift and he had a no lift. Do you remember?
No. It was. I think back at this time, it was really hard to get footage of like your Arnolds. You're kind of relying on following forums and stuff like that. Which at this time I was more focused on my own performances.
You were, yeah.
So I wasn't too worried about what other people were doing in the sport. I was probably training for a comp myself. Whereas now I'm obviously following a lot more of the results. But yeah, how close were they on that one?
It was just 1 point between the 2 of them. So Eddie beat Thor by 1 point. And yeah, Thor...
So that's Eddie's first victory in a full comp against Thor at that time.
Yeah. Not including single events like the deadlift. That was his first time beating him in a competition. Okay. Next was the 2015 World Strongest Man Final. 2015
World Strongest Man Final. Again... You have to go Thor Bjornsson.
Yeah, so because we know Thor was on the podium every year at this point, so Thor was 3rd and Eddie was 4th overall. That was in Malaysia.
Eddie climbing up every year.
Every year he got better. He never went backwards at World's Strongest Man. Next was the 2015 Europe's Strongest Man. So this would be the last time it was held at Headingley Stadium.
And again, we know Thor wins 2015 Europe's Strongest Man.
Yeah. Eddie placed 9th in this competition. So he did the first 2 events and then he pulled out. The first event obviously being the max deadlift, which he was heavily focused on at that point.
And she won?
Yeah, he won, yeah. Next is the 2016 Arnold Strongman Classic.
And again, I'm going to say Thor wins.
Yeah, you're right. So Thor placed 5th and Eddie was 9th. And it was kind of the same story. He pulled out after 2 events. And the first event was a max deadlift, which he won. Next then, the 2016 World Strongest Man Final. Things are really hotting up now.
So 2016 World Strongest Man Final. Thor Bjornsson coming 2nd.
Yeah.
And Eddie coming 3rd.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And who won?
Brian Shaw.
Yeah. Yeah, so in that competition, Eddie placed joint first on 2 events. Thor was first on 2 events and joint first on a 3rd event. Those 2 were absolutely brilliant, but Brian was so consistent. He was so good in that final. No one was beating him that day. Next then is the 2017 Europe Strongest Man.
2017 Europe Strongest Man. I think this was a really good battle between the 2 of them.
It was.
And Hafthor coming out on top.
That's right. So there were 6 events in this competition, and between the 2 guys, they won every event. They won 3 each, but the difference was Thor, on the 3 that he didn't win, he placed 2nd behind Eddie, and Eddie, he got 2 3rd places. So Thor ended up beating him by 2 points overall, but it was neck and neck, and there was a massive gap between those 2 and the rest of the pack.
At this time, they were establishing themselves as the best 2 in the world.
Yeah. There was a weird moment as well where Eddie ripped off Thor's vest.
Top.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Was this the same comp that Eddie came in with the gimp mask on? There were some terrible things going on.
Yeah, that was the gimp mask, yeah.
Thor came in with his entourage and the Icelandic clap.
Yeah, that's
I was coming in as a king. There was all sorts of weird stuff going on. I think Colin Bryce had gone up
lost his
overdrive.
mind. Finally then, the 2017 World's Strongest Man final. This would be the last time they compete against each other.
Yeah, obviously this is year Eddie Hall won World's Strongest Man.
That's right, yeah.
And again, they both really dominated the show.
They did.
Lots of controversy, obviously. I was at the show. I think I came 7th.
Yeah.
World's Strongest Man. Eddie deserved to win.
Yeah, and really, Thor lost this competition on the squat. Everyone talks about the Viking press and 1 more rep, this and that, but the squat, he did 12 reps, but it was only good for 4.5 points.
Yeah.
Whereas Eddie got
14.
Yes.
Or 15?
No, he did 15 reps, so he got the full points. Then there were 4 guys that did 13 reps, and Thor tied with you for 12 reps, so you kind of messed it up for him.
Behind us was like 6 or 8 reps. So
Yeah.
it was a big drop between us.
Right.
But I messed it up for him.
Yeah. So
Well, should have done 1 more rep.
It was the squat. It was the squat where it was lost for Thor, really, when you look back on the points. But there you go.
So I think we see a lot of kind of arguments online about who's better. I personally believe Thor is the better all-round strongman. Mm-hmm. That being said, we should probably point out, I think every time they've gone head-to-head on a deadlift, Eddie has come out on top. Even though Thor has gone on to do the 501, I think you've got to say Eddie was the best deadlifter. Eddie was the better presser. Thor was the better all-round athlete.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Now, because we never include single event competitions where it's just a log or just a deadlift, but if we were to include that in this instance, then it would be a much closer battle. In that case, it would be 14 to Thor and 9 to Eddie. So it would have been a lot closer. However, if you look at every event that these guys have done in the same competition, that's 79 events in total. Thor wins 51 of them.
Wow.
Eddie wins 24, and then they tie on 4.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge when you kind of look at it like that. 1 World's Strongest Man title each.
Yeah.
Hafthor has 3 Arnolds. He's got 5 Europes. He's got 10 national titles. Eddie's got 1 World's.
He's got 6 Britain's Strongest Mans.
I think he's got 5 Britain's Strongest Mans and 6 UK Strongest Mans.
Yeah. And in the UK, and nothing against Iceland, it's a much more competitive competition, isn't it? It's a much harder one to win.
Especially at that
Britain's
time.
Strongest Man, yeah.
I think to be fair to the Icelandic, they're improving.
Yeah.
Probably thanks to guys like Thor.
Yeah.
But Britain, if you think I won in 2012 and 2013, and at that time I was like, World's Strongest Man finalist regularly. You had Terry Hollands, who was a World's Strongest Man finalist regularly. Obviously, Eddie went on from 2014, beating us every single time. He had tough competition at the British, so it was a big title. But when you look at the world stage, you have to say Thor is the better strongman.
Thor came out on top.
If you're comparing winning titles. So there you have it, guys. Thor Bjornsson versus Edward Hall. 2 of the greatest of modern time. 2 of the absolute statically strongest guys we've seen. Head-to-head, Thor comes out on top. This is the 5th time we've done a head-to-head. Let us know if you've enjoyed it, and let us know who else you'd like to see us dive in to the head-to-head battles.